WNZK AM 690. U.S. Arab Radio features Arabic and English language programming on every topic, from health, food, and culture to government, politics, and legal issues. Listen live to U.S. Arab Radio in Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, and Windsor, Canada on WNZK AM 690. And in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia on WDMV 700 AM. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. So join us every day on the U.S. Arab Radio Network and check out our website at www.arabradio.us.
And welcome, everybody. This is Ray Hanania here at Friday, October 10. This is Radio Bellady on the U.S. Arab Radio Network on WNZK AM 690 radio, broadcasting from Dearborn, Michigan, and the Michigan region. It's in partnership, the U.S. Arab Radio Network, with the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. It's really exciting. And of course, our guest this morning I'll be talking with is Khalil Jahshan, the Executive Director of the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. Khalil, how are you, buddy?
Hi, Ray. Good morning to you. It's good to be with you again.
We're actually going to talk in a bit. We're going to take a break in a moment, but we're going to talk with Khalil Jahshan of the Arab Center, Washington, D.C., about the Gaza deal that was just initiated. I'm not sure how far along it is, but there's been some news about it. And we're going to talk about the regional issues, Israel attacking Yemen, Syria, Iran. And, just it's amazing how they get away with all this stuff. We're also going to be talking, if we have time, about the effectiveness of the UN after the United States suspended a lot of its payments to the international body based in New York City. Should the UN be moved? I don't know. And we may talk about Arab Americans if we have time. Khalil and I have known each other since the 70s, I think, easily, back in the days of the Arab American University graduates, right? The National Association of Arab Americans, which I think you founded originally, right?
Well, I worked for it. I didn't help found it, but I basically joined it very early, actually, during the days you and I were in Chicago.
Yeah, and you were a voice 80s. For... You were a voice.
I became its executive director, or the director of the national office, actually, yes.
Yeah, back then, now I got to tell you, Khalil, we had a smaller Arab American community, but I thought we were one much more effective overall, not individually. And we had more substantive organizations. Today, it's ADC, it's CARE, and the Arab Center, Washington, D.C., and years... I think does a huge amount of things. There's, of course, AAI, but when we look at it, it doesn't seem like we have a lot of organizations. I wonder if that makes it challenging for the Arab Center in Washington, D.C., or does it make it easier? But I don't know. Listen, let's take our first break first. When we come back, we'll talk about the Arab Center, Washington, D.C., what it does, when it was founded. I believe it's its 10th anniversary this year. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Gaza ceasefire. Is it really a ceasefire, or is it just the first step to Israeli domination of the Middle East? I don't know. All right, I'm Ray Hanania. My guest is Khalil Jahshan of the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. We're going to take a quick break here at WNZK AM 690 Radio in partnership with Arab Center, Washington, D.C. And when we come back, we'll continue our discussion on several of the topics. I'm Ray Hanania. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Arab Center, Washington, D.C. was established in 2015 to serve as a Washington-based authoritative research center on the Arab world and U.S. policies in the region. My name is Khalil Jahshan, and I'm the Executive Director of Arab Center, Washington, D.C.
I am Tamara Kharoub. I'm the Deputy Executive Director and Senior Fellow here. Our mission at Arab Center, Washington, D.C. has been to provide Arab perspectives to U.S. policy conversations and to highlight rights-centered approaches to policymaking as a way to serve the causes of human rights, democracy, just and peaceful resolution to conflict, and constructive long-term U.S. interest in the region.
Our work also addresses fundamental aspects of U.S.-Arab relations, through timely and objective academic research, policy analysis, and educational exchange, reaching millions of people here in the United States and around the world.
Since our inception, we invested in producing reliable, evidence-based, and inclusive analysis on important issues shaping the Middle East and North Africa.
We would like to invite you personally to check out our publications and events at ArabCenterDC.org.
And please follow our social media platforms for timely responses to news, events, and current affairs.
ArabCenterDC.org.
Life for Relief and Development has now been rated as one of the best charities for humanitarian aid. Life's humanitarian projects span the globe, and Life is celebrating its 30th anniversary of providing essential life-saving aid to people and communities in 36 countries, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. Where there is life, there is hope. And when disaster occurs here or around the world, including being one of the first responders to the Turkey-Syria earthquake crisis, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. We are looking to help the earthquake victims, and we take 0% overhead on emergency donations. So please help improve these efforts. Learn more about our involvement to help the helpless and bring hope where it's needed most. And make your tax-deductible donation to Life for Relief and Development now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's 248-424-7493.
A car accident can change your life in an instant. As a result of a car accident, you may become unemployed. As a result of a car accident, you may need a lot of medical treatment. People think that insurance companies are on their side. Why? Because they're giving them one or two benefits. Are they giving them all the benefits they deserve? How would one know unless you consult with an attorney? Call the law offices of Jumana Kiruz at 248-557-3645. 248-557-3645.
And welcome back to the U.S. Arab Radio, based in Dearborn, Michigan, in partnership with Arab Center, Washington, D.C. We have the guest. Our guest this morning is the executive director of Arab Center, Washington, D.C., Khalil Jahshan. I've known this guy almost like family, really. When you think about Arab Americans, it's, we started out, it was a small community back in the 70s. Very effective, I thought, in terms of getting our voice out. Although the challenges that I thought, Khalil, that we saw back then, many of them are still here today. What the heck happened, and what does Arab Center Washington, D.C. do? Tell us a little bit first about Arab Center and what you do now, 10 years into the organization.
Well, Arab Center is a research center. It's a think tank. As most of your listeners would know, that think tanks are like the fifth form of government in the United States, beyond the executive, legislative, judicial. Then you have the media as the fourth form, informally, the fourth form of government. Research centers and think tanks are part and parcel, if you will, of the political life of this country. And there are, I would say, at least 1,800 to 2,000 think tanks in this country, more than 400 right here in Washington, D.C. And they serve as a revolving door, if you will, for administration. I mean, right now, for example, we have a Republican administration. So people wonder what happened. Where is the Democratic elite right now? Where are they hiding? They basically find home in these different think tanks that tend to be in opposition to the current administration, and they wait their turn. So think tanks are essentially a breeding space for new ideas and so on. Now, you referred to the growth in the community that you and I have witnessed over the past 4 or 5 decades, and we've participated personally in that. This was one missing area. We never really came close to having our own think tank. That partially when we began in the late, let's say, 60s, after the 67 war, with the birth of the AAUG, the hope was that it would emerge into a think tank and maybe be part of that think tank activity or research activities throughout the United States to influence public opinion, to influence decision making, and so on. So after my second retirement, Ray, I decided to go ahead 10 years ago and do this, start basically a think tank for the Arab American community, because I was frustrated having been participating in so many think tanks in Washington. And they are the recipient of all kinds of support from the Arab world, but frankly, they don't give us our money's worth. They nominally involve us in a panel here, a panel there. You know, they get a nominal Arab American or Arab scholar participating, and so on. They prepare some reports for clients, let's say an Arab government and what have you. But they were never part of us per se. So that's what Arab Center is.
That's
Arab
phenomenal.
Center,
That's phenomenal that you're able to do that, because you're absolutely right. I never thought of an Arab think tank. There are a lot of Arab organizations, but you're right. It's good to see that you've been able to create that.
Yeah, it's somewhat independent, let's say, or separate a little bit from, let's say, organizations within the Arab American community that we refer to as Arab American or Muslim American organizations. They're all great. They're doing their share. They're filling some of the gaps that need to be filled by any typical ethnic immigrant community. But the think tank game is a totally different ball game, and I'm delighted to contribute to that personally and professionally. And I have a great team I'm working with, and it's been a phenomenal 10 years. It's kind of like the highlight of my activism, lifelong activism in this country.
Well, I tell people, don't ever call me a veteran. Don't say I've been long-standing, okay? Because I'm way up there in the years. Whoever thought that I'd be at this age, my father's age, although I think we live longer and we're healthier than our parents. Although the Middle East diet, I think, has had a lot to do with that. But think tanks, for example, when a think tank approaches something like the Gaza war and this ceasefire, how does it differ from, let's say, an organization that would, just one of the other organizations that would approach it? Well, how do you look at it, and what do you do in terms of addressing it?
Well, look, community organizations, typically are in the business of activism, in the business of activating their members to influence, if you will, decision makers or public opinion. It depends on the legal format of that organization. Some of our organizations are PR-like oriented organizations. They interact with the media. They interact, with other, if you will, players within public opinion in general. Some are in the lobbying business, as we did, for example, for 30 years during the National Association of Arab Americans, interacting with officialdom, explaining our perspective, defining our own version of the national interest of this country and the Arab world, setting some expectations, in other words, influencing decision makers. Think tanks are different. Think tanks essentially are in the business of producing information, objective information, professional information, academically solid information that is essentially distributed and used for explaining to all those who are interested across the board, ranging from public opinion to university audiences, to fellow think tanks, and of course, reaching up to decision makers. We do not try to influence policies directly. It's not a lobby. But we do try to inform decision makers so that their decisions, their policies, are better informed than what they have been. And as you know very well, and all of your audience knows, that has been a problem for us as Arab Americans all along, because there's a huge gap between public policy and public opinion in this country, and between public policy and common sense.
Yeah, what I like about the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. is you've partnered, for example, with the U.S. Arab Radio Network. That's so unique, which is
Yeah,
terrible to say because when I got involved with the Arab American Congress for Palestine in Chicago with Ayub
right.
Tahami, Ibrahim Abu-Lughod, and Edward Said. I remember they came out, they sat me down, and they said, Ray, we want you to be the spokesperson. I said, me? I'm just a student at the University of Illinois. I just got out of the Vietnam War. And they said, no, we need you because your voice, your English is perfect. Plus, we need the media. We need you in the media to fight
Mhm.
for, to convey our views to the rest of America. I think that's something that the Arab Center has done very, very well over the past 10 years, because it isn't the first time I've heard of you. I've known you a long time, but the Arab Center I've heard
Yeah.
about for a long time.
The media, you're right. The media is very, very important in terms of influencing both public policy and public opinion. After all, we're an open society. The free flow of information is vital for us as a democracy, or whatever is left of, of our democracy these days. So it's important to be a player in this field. So our bread and butter, Ray, is essentially the product. The main product is policy papers. Okay,
Yes.
Policy papers are different from academic papers.
Yes.
And different from, let's say, lobbying positions. So they are a little bit more fleshed out, a little bit more detailed. So they are kind of a hybrid between academic research and policy-oriented research for the use of those who are interested in policy. And we, as a small organization, we're not a huge think tank compared to some of the others. There are think tanks in Washington, D.C. that have more than 200-300 employees, and they have probably about $100 million in annual budgets, and so on. We're a very small organization. We have 12 full-time employees, staff, plus we have about 30 or so affiliates. Non-resident fellows. These are academics, let's say professors, researchers that have their own jobs, but they affiliate with the center and write for the center. And basically that whole group, as small as it is, we produce about, right now, 4 to 5 policy papers a week. That's unprecedented.
That's a lot. That's good.
You get groups that are 10 times our size that do not do that. They might produce 4 or 5 policy papers a month, but not necessarily a week. We have exceeded this past year between 250 to 300 policy papers over a period of 12 months. And it's reaching a huge audience, not only here at home and here in Washington, D.C., but throughout the country and throughout the world. I mean, our readers right now are in the vicinity of 3.5 million people.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, that's phenomenal. And I think that is, you've taken it and created an Arab think tank, Arab American think tank, which I think you're right. It's been a vacuum, and it's so important to have that, all the data that you produce. Although I remember back in the 80s and 90s, you would do some papers, I think, for the AAUG, right?
Yes,
the little pamphlets. I still have them. I still collect them. I have a library at my house in Chicago.
You can see some of them behind me right here. So,
yes. And
we are very proud of that organization, very proud of the product that came out. And again, the difference, by the way, if you notice, at the time, as a result of the shock of 67, the question that behooved all of us at the time, some of the names you mentioned earlier, was, why this policy? Why this position by the United States? What's wrong with public opinion in this country? Why this biased position? And we felt at the time, because of the makeup of the group that we were part of, we tended to lean toward academia more. And we identified basically the problem diagnosed the problem as lack of solid objective information about the Middle East. And that's what we did. And it was mostly academic. I mean, hundreds of publications throughout the life of the AUG filled that vacuum and produced a lot of papers, manuscripts that became usable on a daily basis in so many universities. And if you remember, AUG in its early days, 1,200 members, 800 of them were professors.
Yes, I remember.
So that's the
I do
rationale
remember.
for it.
Well, you've taken it one step further.
Yeah.
Not only do you have a think tank that produces these phenomenal understandings of what's happening, it's not a criticism of what's happening or an activism of what's happening, but it's substance so that someone like me or in the public can understand what's going on. But you also respect the Arab American media. No one has ever respected the Arab American media. It's almost like they've ignored everything. Everybody has ignored us and always focused on the Middle East and Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
which I think is great. But I think your expansion to include the Arab American media is good because we need our community to understand
Definitely.
what's happening just the way the Americans do. My guest on here, and by the way, we're broadcasting live on the U.S. Arab Radio Facebook page and live on radio at WNZK AM 690. My guest is Khalil Jahshan, the executive director of the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. Their website is arabcenterwdc.org. Let's talk a little bit about the Gaza peace deal. I got a sense that Trump was just pushing this because he hoped it might be a last minute bid to be nominated and receive the Nobel Peace Prize, which he's screaming about on Truth Social and all over social media that he didn't get it. They gave it to an opposition leader in Venezuela, I think,
Yeah.
which really, that's a topic of its own. But tell us a little bit about the Gaza deal and what do we know about it?
Well, essentially, I think you're right. Let's put aside the issue of the personal motive here, but policy these days at the White House, as an old-timer who has interacted with at least 5 or 6 presidents of the United States in the past, in close proximity, and learned how decisions are being made and participated in briefings at the highest levels of this country's government. We have a totally kind of new game in town, a new sheriff in town and a new game in town.
A PR sheriff, by the way, just a PR sheriff.
Yes, and it's totally different, frankly. The whole ball game is just changed. And essentially, it is more personalized, a personal whim, usually, when you analyze decision makers, be they presidents or kings or what have you, heads of state. I remember a course I've taken at the University of Chicago in the old days called the psychology and psychiatry of world leadership. And
yeah, that last one would be applied today. We need it.
It was very useful throughout my career to have had that background.
Who knew, right, that would be a major part?
Usually, frankly, the policy, but in this country, which essentially prides itself on being a democracy, it's not a perfect democracy, but it is a democracy. Otherwise, you and I will not be talking this morning.
That's true.
Right? Essentially, about, I would say, 70% of the product from any president or any administration is usually based on policy, based on substance.
Right.
And about 20 to 30% the personality of that president. So
because of the politics, they have to kind of run for re-election, right?
But at this time in Washington, under this president, it's the opposite. It's reverse. It's about 70% hype and whim, personal whim, and probably 20 to 30% substance. So it's when you look at a particular policy like this one, what are we doing in Gaza? You will notice that. First and foremost, I would say the main difference is I've been part of peace processes in the Middle East ad nauseum. I could write, 10 books on that. I've been, participating sometimes at close proximity in some of these. And I'll tell you, this one is not a peace process. I mean, I can tell a peace process from 10 miles away. This is not a peace process. This is basically a wishful list. It is essentially just a list of ideas, not fully detailed, not professionally drafted, not interlinked properly, Uh, each step of this so-called plan, because it's not really a plan, that's why I say so-called plan. It's just basically detached ideas, 20 different ideas. Started as 21, then we all got 5% discount, I guess. We're at 20 now. And with the beginning of the implementation, now we're talking about the first 4 or 5 points in this list. And essentially, it aims at diffusing the conflict in Gaza. I think the difference between this president and his predecessor, I remember in a meeting with high-ranking officials at the White House during the previous administration, when ideas to stop the conflict came up in our discussion, I was told bluntly by the highest-ranking people in the administration, and I'm quoting them, that the old man will not allow this to happen. In other words, he did not want the conflict to stop. The difference now is, whether you agree or disagree with this president, he is just tired of this conflict. He wants it to stop. Why? We can speculate, okay? We can speculate about his own, background as a businessman, the fact that he has managed to recruit, I would say, a lot of investment, trillions of dollars of investment from certain Arab countries. He has benefited personally and his family business from all kinds of both gifts and investments from these countries. So somehow he has been sensitized to the fact that this conflict is damaging to his own interest and to the interest of the country, and he wants it stopped. So to me, this is a serious change in the demeanor of this country, because frankly, I consider, I hate to admit it, but as an American citizen, I have to admit that we, as the United States of America, have been an accessory to genocide in Gaza and in Palestine.
Yeah, we've put $22 billion into that war, and I think we're driving it.
Ray. That's the
really
a lot more. You know what's not being counted? The cost of the war to Israel itself, which we end up subsidizing, is already more than $100 billion.
Wow.
We have contributed armaments, like you mentioned, in the vicinity of 30 some, between 30 and 40.
Wow.
But nobody is calculating the cost to us. Remember early in the war when all these naval ships, 40 plus of them, were running around the region trying to help make sure Israel is protected.
That's true. There was a cost to that, right?
This was not free of charge. Okay,
right.
So someone was paying, and we rarely mention, the media rarely mentions the presence of U.S. intelligence, the presence of secret bases in Israel and other places in the region contributing to the war. And as a matter of fact, just yesterday, Ray, I don't know if you've noticed, we approved 200 soldiers heading out there to be parts of implementing this plan we're talking about. So when you put all that together, it is a shabby kind of plan, not necessarily fully studied. It doesn't have a team behind it, a serious team like we've seen in the past. We always had peacemaking teams during these initiatives. And by the way, this is not a new invention. It's probably, I would say, if my memory serves me well, this is probably the 150th peace effort in Palestine in history since the 30s of the last century.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. look at how much, because I think that may be a topic that you may take on. What have we actually put? Because you're right, you've touched on areas of cost that are at this point have not even been addressed. Americans, I don't think, realize how much we have put into this, how responsible we are, and how complicit we are in what Israel has been doing in Gaza. Khalil, we have to take a quick break right now, and then when we come back, we'll come back. But when I was a City Hall reporter for the Chicago Sun-Times back in the 70s and 80s, when Jane Byrne was the mayor, we once said that she had a whim of steel. She would come up with ideas like that and push it. And then if she didn't like it, she'd drop it and come up with a new idea. Trump, if I were to write a book about him, it would be called A Whim of Rubber. I don't know how long it would last.
Jello would be better, more
Maybe
descriptive.
a whim of Jello. All right, we're talking with Khalil Jahshan, the executive director of the Arab Center of Washington, D.C. Their website is arabcenterwdc.org. And I'm Ray Hanania, and my website, of course, is hanania.com. Here at the U.S. Arab Radio Network, which is in partnership with the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to continue this really informative discussion with Khalil Jahshan. He's been a long time, not just activist, but a thinker in our community about what's been happening in the Middle East, a great resource for understanding. And we'll talk more about some of the topics we have. I'm Ray Hanania. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Arab Center Washington, D.C. was established in 2015 to serve as a Washington-based authoritative research center on the Arab world and U.S. policies in the region. My name is Khalil Jahshan, and I'm the Executive Director of Arab Center, Washington, D.C.
I am Tamara Kharoub. I'm the Deputy Executive Director and Senior Fellow here. Our mission at Arab Center, Washington, D.C. has been to provide Arab perspectives to U.S. policy conversations and to highlight rights-centered approaches to policymaking as a way to serve the causes of human rights, democracy, just and peaceful resolution to conflict, and constructive long-term U.S. interest in the region.
Our work also addresses fundamental aspects of U.S.-Arab relations through timely and objective academic research, policy analysis, and educational exchange, reaching millions of people here in the United States and around the world.
Since our inception, we invested in producing reliable, evidence-based, and inclusive analysis on important issues shaping the Middle East and North Africa.
We would like to invite you personally to check out our publications and events at arabcenterdc.org.
And please follow our social media platforms for timely responses to news, events, and current affairs.
arabcenterdc.org.
With more than 30,000 successful in vitro fertilizations, IVF Michigan is now ranked as one of America's best fertility clinics according to Newsweek magazine. IVF Michigan fertility centers are the recognized leaders in high-quality fertility care. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 9 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. A founding member, American board-certified Dr. Nicholas Shama, is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. He has performed over 20,000 successful IVF cases, and it's helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. When it's time to get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at one of America's best fertility clinics, call IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio at 248-487-8084. That's 248-487-8084.
Are you going to start a restaurant or a grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
And welcome back to the U.S. Arab Radio Network. It is Friday, October 10th. I'm Ray Hanania, your host here, talking with Khalil Jahshan, the Executive Director of the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. And by the way, the website is arabcenterdc.org, arabcenterdc.org. The Twitter account is Arab Center WDC, which is where I was busy with social media, helping to try to promote the show, helping Layla Al-Husseini, the founder of this radio station that's been going on. I think I if I'm not mistaken, maybe 15 years or more. She's been doing this, which is a lot of time. Khalil and I have been talking a little bit about the Gaza. I don't want to even call it a peace deal because it's not. I'm not
Yeah.
even sure if it's really a ceasefire either. It's like a temporary suspension, the Gaza suspension. So tell us a little bit more about what we know about what's happening, because we're not getting the information from the media the way we used to. It's very partisan. It's the
Yes.
far left versus the far right, and I don't know if there's any middle ground. But what do we know about this?
What we know is essentially, like I said, we have a list of 20 ideas proposed by the Trump administration, essentially through the mediation of two main countries, Qatar and Egypt. So it's been kind of indirect communication with Hamas through these Arab, if you will, mediators. And as the U.S. essentially changed a bit its approach, if you will, I wouldn't say change its policy, because the policy remains the same. The policy remains the eradication of Hamas, stopping any Palestinian resistance to occupation, helping Israel continue to basically lord it over the region, but ending the fighting, because the fighting has become costly, not only to Israel, but costly to the United States. So out of selfish reasons, we're proposing this ceasefire. So essentially what this list of ideas begins with is convincing the parties, and they have succeeded in doing so the past 3-4 days, essentially to cease, if you will, the fighting that has been taking place. In that sense, I, as a person of Palestinian origin, I welcome the fact that after 2 years of savagery and genocide, after losing 67,000 plus Palestinian, mostly civilians in Gaza, and mostly children and women killed during this war, I would welcome a ceasefire and giving, let's say, a political solution a chance. Now, whether this agreement would or not remains to be seen. But the arrangement, basically, in addition to a ceasefire, immediately after 72 hours, so in other words, Monday or Tuesday of this coming week, there will be an exchange of hostages, release of Israeli hostages held in Gaza. There are 48 hostages. Of course, 20 of them only are still alive. The rest have been killed throughout the process the past 2 years. So both alive and deceased will be exchanged on Monday or Tuesday. And then the Israelis are supposed to respond back by releasing about 2,000 Palestinian prisoners in return. 250 of them are people sentenced to life in prison for acts of resistance against Israeli occupation. About 1,700 are Gazans who have been arrested during the war since October 7, 2020.
And I always quibble with the word arrested, because coming from a democracy here in the U.S., maybe not perfect, the word arrest suggests the judicial process where they've been charged, representative, habeas corpus, you go before a court and a judge. That's never happened. It's more of a detention that goes back to the British mandate. So in a way, I look at those as Palestinian hostages. But go ahead.
Israel is holding or detaining probably more between 8 and 10,000. The numbers keep going up and down. And as a matter of fact, to illustrate your point, Ray, I said that 250 have already been sentenced to life. So they've been through some kind of military court system mostly.
Correct.
But the 1,700 have not been. As a matter of fact, when the idea was proposed by Mr. Witkoff to release them, Israel said no, because all of a sudden Israel became addicted to the legal process, saying that
we can't avoid it.
Yeah, we have to wait. We can't release them. They haven't been.
It became an obstacle, not a process, right?
Right.
Yes.
Right. And then other issues beyond that. Once that is accomplished, that's when the challenge begins. Frankly, what we are seeing right now is the beginning of a beginning. The question is it going to be the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning? That's the challenge for Mr. Trump.
And let me take this to another level. What has this 2 years of famine, genocide, and just unrestrained Israeli violence against the predominantly 90% unarmed population, destruction, 80% of homes, businesses, schools, mosques, churches, you name it, everything is gone almost. What impact has that had on the Arab world?
I think it has had a massive impact on the world in general. I would venture to say that it might have had even more of an impact on the world community outside the Arab world than it has had on the Arab world because of all kinds of the nature of governments in the Arab world, the nature of the media in the Arab world. But generally speaking, I think the public opinion, the sentiment in the Arab world is extremely agitated and animated. And that's why Arab countries are struggling to try to kind of, again, even if it's cooperation with Trump, they're trying to put the lid on this conflict because they're afraid that it might affect their own internal stability. So the answer is very, very strong impact. Watching these pictures every day, people dying, children dying, and senseless war. This is, look, Ray, to understand it, you have to basically describe it accurately. This is a war of vengeance.
Yes.
By Israel
yes.
to the event of October 7, 2023.
Yes.
Vengeance is not necessarily the answer, but that's the road that Mr. Netanyahu and his government chose, and that's why they got in trouble.
And I think it's had a major impact here in the U.S. We've seen a shift in how Americans view the government of Israel and Israel. And I think Netanyahu has dragged that image down to the lowest level we've ever seen in a long time. The cost is huge in terms of human lives, but the damage to Israel's government, I think, has been significant. Is it significant? And I know that Israel has been spending a lot of time trying to control the media to suppress that shock when you see these videos killing a little kid. Live, they have videos of, it's just horrible. I can't watch that. And I think that there are many Americans who, for the first time, have realized what Netanyahu really is about and his coalition and his government. It's just been horrific. Khalil, we need to take, if you have a comment about that, go ahead, but we got to take one more break.
Yeah, a quick comment. I think the change is significant. I mean, again, for you and I, having observed public opinion for so long in this country, I've never seen a plurality of Americans, close to right now 45% saying Israel has committed genocide and is doing the wrong thing in Gaza, versus only 32% to 33% that are saying Israel is doing the right thing, defending itself. So this is a very serious change, including within the Jewish community, where more than 45% of youth under the age of 30 basically are accepting the fact that Israel has committed genocide and are against this war.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our discussion with Khalil Jahshan, the Executive Director of the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. Their website is arabcenterdc.org. Very fascinating discussion we've had, very substantive, and it's live on Facebook. It'll be on YouTube. You'll be able to watch this later, but you can get more information on the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. at arabcenterdc.org. I'm Ray Hanania at hanania.com here at the U.S. Arab Radio Network. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back right after these messages.
Arab Center Washington, D.C. was established in 2015 to serve as a Washington-based authoritative research center on the Arab world and U.S. policies in the region. My name is Khalil Jahshan, and I'm the Executive Director of Arab Center, Washington, D.C.
I am Tamara Kharoub. I'm the Deputy Executive Director and Senior Fellow here. Our mission at Arab Center, Washington, D.C. has been to provide Arab perspectives to U.S. policy conversations. and to highlight rights-centered approaches to policymaking as a way to serve the causes of human rights, democracy, just and peaceful resolution to conflict, and constructive long-term U.S. interest in the region.
Our work also addresses fundamental aspects of U.S.-Arab relations through timely and objective academic research, policy analysis, and educational exchange, reaching millions of people here in the United States and around the world.
Since our inception, we invested in producing reliable, evidence-based, and inclusive analysis on important issues shaping the Middle East and North Africa.
We would like to invite you personally to check out our publications and events at ArabCenterDC.org.
And please follow our social media platforms for timely responses to news, events, and current affairs.
ArabCenterDC.org. Okay, let's see. 3 orange folders, 2 blue folders, 1 white gym shirt, 1 box of 24 crayons.
Before you get started on that back to school list, get caught up on this one.
Measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, polio vaccine, chickenpox vaccine.
Protect your child from disease outbreaks. See a healthcare provider to get them up to date on vaccines and visit ivaccinate.org to learn more. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Franny Strong Foundation.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
And welcome back, everybody. It's Ray Hanania here at WNZK AM 690 Radio, broadcasting from Dearborn, Michigan, in the Michigan region on Radio Baladi, partnered with the Arab Center, Washington, D.C. It's Friday, October 10th. My website is hanania.com. I want to just thank Layla El Husseini because this radio show every day, Monday through Friday, plus 24 hours, I believe that it's live on radio and then it's online, where you can get everything about our community, and it's growing. She does such a tremendous job, and I salute her. And it's just great to see someone like Khalil Jahshan partner with the Arab American media community to help bring the voice of all the research that his think tank, the Arab Center, Washington, D.C., is doing. That information needs not only to reach the American public in the Middle East, but also Arab Americans, so we can strengthen our voice when we go out there. And when people, my neighbors, say what's going on, we need to have substantive information, not just emotion. Khalil, again, it's a pleasure having you on. We only have about 11 minutes left. Radio goes by very quick, and I wish we had like a WBEZ Arab American version, although they're struggling because of Trump's whim of Jell-O. As you point out, that's a great line. I'm going to be using that a lot if you don't mind. Let's shift gears a little bit to talk about the United Nations. The United Nations was supposed to be the focus to address issues and conflicts like this, and sadly, it doesn't even come close to being able to address this conflict and many, many others, unless it's something that the Russians want, the Chinese want, or the United States wants. What's the status of the UN, and do you think it should be moved given the hostility from the Trump administration?
It's been frustrating analyzing the role of the UN. I mean, definitely the UN was established back after, World War II, not only to be a, discussion society, if you will, but to also help find solutions for these problems for the main purpose of avoiding wars. And it has succeeded in some areas of the world, but it has failed. And mostly it's been tragic as far as the Middle East is concerned, the Arab-Israeli conflict, the Palestine question. I mean, here we are 77 years after the establishment of the State of Israel, and we haven't been able to basically, at the UN, to come up with anything constructive. Several attempts were made. The problem is the structure of the UN. I don't think moving it, Ray, would be the answer. I would say reforming the organization would be the answer.
How do you reform it, though, when it's in a country that so effectively silences its mission?
That is the problem. But frankly, that can be overcome by internal regulations within the organization. For example, the host country right now occasionally plays a very negative role, like in the case of in recent weeks when discussions over Palestine and recognition of Palestinian statehood took place. Mr. Trump decided to deprive Palestinian leaders from having a visa to enter the U.S. to participate in the UN. This is ethically and politically unacceptable.
Yes.
It has never been done that frequently or that way with any other, if you will, entity or country in the world other than the Palestinians. The last time it was done, remember, we had to move the session, the General Assembly session to Vienna to proceed with the deliberation. That is hindering the work of the UN, and that is not a behavior befitting a superpower that claims to be the leader of the democratic world, the biggest contributor to the UN, and the country that claims it's the main supporters of peaceful solutions to conflict. At the UN, its vetoes belie that. I mean, it just it doesn't make sense. So I would say the first thing to start with is the role of the Security Council. I think essentially the veto power restricted to a few countries around the world, that doesn't make sense anymore. We are not in the 1940s. This is 2025. It behooves the UN to reassess its own makeup, if you will, and see how we can be more effective and more productive.
The General Assembly, I know Dr. Jill Stein has been pushing this thing that the General Assembly has the power. They need to have the ability to override a Security Council veto. There should be a process to do that, and I'm not sure there is one. It was built so that the major founders, back when there were only 50 members, you know, in the after World War II, today we have 198, I think, members, 193, 198. It's a world organization, and it should represent the world.
It does, and it is not an accurate representation as it stands. In addition, it's being complicated by the behavior of an administration that is antagonistic to international cooperation. That's the purpose of the UN, international cooperation for conflict resolution purposes. And if the US that champions, again, self-declared champion of democracy and peaceful resolution to conflict, doesn't believe in what it preaches, then we have a serious issue and with serious impact on the state of war and peace around the world.
Khalil, we only have a couple minutes left, about 5 minutes. So tell me, what are some of the things that we might look forward to coming from the Arab Center in Washington, D.C.? I know we had a bunch of topics. I got to bring you back on another time to talk about some more of the issues, but I know that things don't change much in terms of the Middle East news cycle. But what are some of the things that we could look forward to and get from ArabCenterDC.org on your website?
Yeah, in addition to, again, being informed in a serious manner about the issues of the day, I would say by taking a look at our regular daily papers being added. We just added today 2 papers dealing with the plan that we just discussed. So if you want, including an excellent paper by my colleague Jonathan Kuttab on a legal analysis of these 20 points, showing the deficiency and why it's difficult to be optimistic about the results of this. But I would say the most exciting thing we're working on is as a result of the campus activism of the past 2 years, generated by the genocide in Gaza and the war against the people of Gaza. we are preparing a huge website focusing on Palestine, which will be the place to go to for activists around the country, any age, whether on campus or not on campus. If you want to learn how to deal with the issues, how to respond to criticism, to questions from the other side, it is the most comprehensive effort ever to put together a useful, hands-on website on Palestine. I think that will help our community, will help particularly our students on campuses at this day and age when they are under fire by the campus authorities and by the authorities at large. I think that will be a revolutionary impact. I think it will have a very important, significant impact on debating the issue and presenting the issue of Palestine, particularly on campuses, but across the board as the issue becomes of national significance.
That's phenomenal, because one of the big challenges has always been the ability to get information consistent and accurate.
And up to date, Ray.
Up to date, absolutely up to date. I know, and I'm really excited about that, and I'm looking forward to it, and I hope it is successful. Khalil, I just want to say thank you for coming on the program. We're down to the last couple minutes, and it's been enjoyable. We have to have you back to talk about some of these issues. And I appreciate what the Arab Center Washington, D.C. does. Again, their website is arabcenterdc.org. For our listeners, you should go there and make that a constant place where you go for information about what's happening in the Arab world to understand those issues. Khalil has been around for a long time. He has a lot of experience. So it's not just like he popped up last week and is suddenly expressing an opinion. There's a lot of deep thought and experience that goes behind all the information that he has available. So Khalil, thank you again so much for joining us. Everybody out there in Dearborn, it was a pleasure to be out there for the ADC convention. I was there.
Right.
I work for Arab News at arabnews.com, writing opinions and news stories. So there are a bunch of stories about everything that happened in Dearborn. I want to thank Layla Al-Husseini, WNZK AM 690 Radio in Michigan and Dearborn for giving me this platform. They asked me to host this as a guest host, and I'm happy, very happy to do that. So I just ask my listeners, go to hanania.com. You can read some of my opinions, but also go to arabcenterdc.org if you want to find out what's happening in Palestine. I'm Ray Hanania. Thank you, everybody, for listening, whether it's on Facebook, live radio, or however you get us. Thank you so much. Khalil Jahshan, thank you. We will talk to everybody again. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.